You ever play a game you loved and hated at the same time? It filled you with visceral joy but teeth-grinding anger at the same time? Well, those are the types of games we're talking about today. These games have incredibly great and unique moments that make me glad I played them, but there are just so many frustrating moments that keep me from enjoying them fully. But for the most part, my desire for the great moments outweighed my frustration. I was perfectly okay with having a few unfair things thrown at me just as long as I ended up getting those great moments in the end. This, I feel, was a very difficult list to quantify, because, well, how do I rank them? How much I hate them, or how much I like them? In the end, I decided to rank them based off of which ones gave me the strongest feelings. Which ones gave me the most exasperation at the fact that it had such great and memorable moments that were bogged down by frustrating design. So, here we go. Top 10 games I love and hate. The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call. I really enjoyed the Assassin's Creed series before they started shoving busy work down my throat. To me, Assassin's Creed was about the planning, stalking, and executing of your kill, all the while seeing famous places and figures from history. I really enjoyed the clever way they explained away any historical inaccuracies that actually ties into the game's overarching narrative.
Anyone can write a book, and they can put whatever they want on its pages. Anything. Used to be, we thought the world was flat.
The story itself is able to keep your attention. It kept mine. Both sides built up this very interesting conspiracy that made it a ton of fun to speculate about what was going on. If it were first introduced today as a cartoon or TV series, I bet you money that people would have been making theory and speculation videos on it. While it is a little jarring having to switch back and forth between the two stories of Desmond and Altair, both stories are interesting and keep you invested on what's going to happen next. There were a few problems with Assassin's Creed though, the biggest one being it was repetitive, especially during the moments leading up to the big kill. Missions were all pretty much the same, either being pickpocket a guy, or eavesdrop on a guy, kill a guy, or beat a guy up and then kill the guy. Combat isn't too depth-filled either. Once you have the timing down, you can wreck everyone by just using counters because everyone likes to take turns attacking like it's a JRPG. Even though Assassin's Creed was repetitive, it still managed to keep my attention. Climbing up every single one of those towers was a new and unique experience for me at the time, and since I previously played and loved the Prince of Persia series before playing this, I was entertained. The eagle points and the sweeping shots of the environments they give you are also incredibly mesmerizing. But the best parts are diving off each of the towers into a bale of hay. Those are still a moment across the entire franchise that I'm not tired of yet. I think the darker part of my mind wonders what would happen if they overshot their jump.
Everybody do the flop! The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
Nowadays you see a lot of people raving about Mario Kart 8's 200cc mode and how insane it is. Okay, imagine that, except call it 1000cc. That is F-Zero GX. It is the hardest game I've ever played. In F-Zero, you're racing against 30 other racers instead of the usual 8 to 12. Each F-Zero game features an energy meter, where if you take too much damage, you lose. But ever since F-Zero X, once you pass through the second lap, you gain the ability to sacrifice a bit of energy for a boost, which gave the F-Zero franchise a high speed, high risk, high reward system that got fine-tuned to an absurdity in F-Zero GX. Not only are the other racers more aggressive, but the level of the track seemed designed to try and kill you. Not only were there more sharp turns and things to crash into, but if you didn't approach several of these jumps with care, or if you happened to be upside down in a cylinder or a tube, you could have flown off the track and instantly lost. Even going too fast and hitting a tiny jump could send you off course and make you happy you took out that car insurance. And I haven't even tackled the story mode yet. When racing game bosses first became a thing, a lot of developers really didn't know how to do them. What they usually had was someone who drives the track perfectly. Essentially, they forced you to race perfection. Good racing game bosses nowadays give you a means to interfere with that perfection, but for the most part, racing game bosses are still ridiculously hard. And when you combine how easy it is in F-Zero to get tossed around like a ragdoll, you get some of the most challenging bosses in gaming history. I still haven't beaten the final boss on normal, and even getting that far took months of blood, sweat, tears, and even controllers. But don't let that turn you off. The game is still worth playing. Even though this game is blisteringly hard, it's blisteringly fun as well. F-Zero games have always had this feeling of exhilaration, which was ramped up due to the game's very well-designed visuals. The particle effects and environments are actually pretty impressive for its time, looking a lot like an early Xbox 360 game. I mean, if you're going to be going at blinding speeds, you better make sure those speed lines are worthwhile. The racetrack layouts and gimmicks are hard, yes, but they're also very unique and fun. The soundtrack to this game is magnificent as well, being every metalhead's dream.
Yeah, word of advice, don't listen to the music while driving. You will speed, guaranteed.
The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
Concerning Devil May Cry 4, I had a friend who knew about the whole half-good game, half-bad game reputation that it has. In my friend's infinite kindness, he let me play and finish the whole second half featuring Dante. Now, I played Devil May Cry 3 a little bit before playing this game, so I understood the mechanics well enough. As a result, I had a good time. Everything looked really good, Dante himself was an entertaining character, the combat was fun, and overall it was a good experience. Out of curiosity, I actually went back and tried the first half where you play as Nero.
A decision I wholeheartedly regret not doing earlier.
Yeah, to be honest, I actually preferred Nero's gameplay and how he has a much stronger focus on opponent control and manipulation. Overall, I felt more like a badass demon hunter playing as Nero than I did Dante. Although, in comparison to Dante, Nero's character positively pales. Nero is a cocky punk like Dante, but it really doesn't feel like he has earned the right to be cocky like Dante has. Nero also has this habit of wailing the name of his girlfriend over and over in this amusingly whiny voice.
Kenny! I swear it! I swear I'm gonna get us out of here! Together, Kenny! Kenny!
So majestic.
But back to gameplay. After playing as Nero for so long, switching over to a playstyle as radically different as Dante's was not only jarring, but almost made me quit. The only thing that kept me going during my second playthrough was the fact that Dante himself was 50 flavors of entertaining and made killing demons a total spectacle. So yes, Devil May Cry 4 is less half good game, half bad game, and more of a fun mess. Even though at times it feels like a slog, especially during the second half, I'm still glad I played it as it contains several unforgettable moments and generally satisfying combat. But the biggest problem that everyone agrees on is the game made you play through it twice. Ugh, why do games have to do this?
The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
Super Paper Mario. I'm glad I played this game, but I'm never going to play it again. Let me explain.
Super Paper Mario was a departure from the typical JRPG format of the previous Paper Mario games, instead featuring a more of a puzzle, platformer, adventure style with heavy RPG elements. The combat is competently designed. I mean, you jump on things, they die, and it rarely feels unfair. And while it's certainly a unique game, it still manages to keep the Paper Mario feel of fun-loving silliness. Like other moments in the Paper Mario series, it occasionally enjoyed breaking down the wall between the player and the game. While a lot of these moments are interesting, memorable, and fun, some of them almost feel like they are trolling the player. And now that I think about it, the frequency of the moments increased after the first Paper Mario. I mean, Thousand Year Door had the wedding ring bit, Super Paper Mario had that hamster wheel where you could just tape the controller down and go make a sandwich, and Paper Mario Sticker Star had Paper Mario Sticker Star.
I'm not apologizing. I'm gonna take as many shots as possible with that game.
Back to SPM. There are many repetitive moments in the game as well, like Samber's Kingdom, both pre- and post-apocalypse. In pre-apocalypse, you enter and exit a dozen rooms that all look the exact same. Post-apocalypse was certainly dramatic and atmospheric while it lasted. Eventually, the large amount of time just walking to the right with nothing happening began to bore me. And I suppose this is a personal issue, but the game to me was so disorienting. The switch of dimensions, while creative and fun, was super confusing and complex as it forced you to constantly think outside the box. I remember coming out of sessions of Super Paper Mario feeling almost dazed. I did like the story, even though it was a little dark and melodramatic. Okay, it was very dark and melodramatic, but I still liked it. It still had the trademark Paper Mario zany humor, it still had some cool plot tidbits, and it introduced us to a ton of interesting characters, including the fan favorite Dementio. So yes, I'm glad I played this game, but I'm never going to play it again.
The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
What is wrong with Sonic games after Sonic 3? Every single one is so radically and needlessly different from the other. It feels like ever since Sonic Adventure, the Sonic team has been throwing darts at random ideas and committing all the resources to their whims. It's like they almost understand what makes a good Sonic game, but miss it by this much. This has in turn led to fun and exciting, but clunky and frustrating games such as Sonic Heroes, Sonic Unleashed, and number 6 on this list, Sonic and the Secret Rings. This was a very different sort of Sonic game, where Sonic moved forward automatically and his speed built along with it. Every time you got hit, it would knock your speed down a few pegs. The idea was to reward you with Sonic's trademark speed for good player performance. It's actually an interesting idea, and in my opinion, it works. Just a few problems kept that from being fully realized. There are far too many moments in the Secret Rings where it required perfect execution, and the motion controls of the game were just not programmed well enough to get away with that sort of implicit demand. Sonic's acceleration at the start of the story was frustratingly low, as getting him up to max speed took way too long. This gets to the point where you would sometimes have to memorize obstacles, which you should never have to do under any circumstances, especially in a game series that builds its name on speed. Despite all that, it was worth pushing through the constant annoyances because Secret Rings really did capture that blissful feeling of speed that Sonic games advertise. And towards the end of the game, you become so used to the earlier frustration with the controls that passing the later obstacles becomes a breeze. Oh yes, there is also an underlying fire motif. So yes, this game had some cool ideas that were bogged down by some frustrating choices. I still enjoy playing it. I feel I have a strange fascination for clunky executions of video games, because they usually have great concepts and experiments that perhaps need another shot to be fully realized.
Secret Rings, to me, seemed like one of those experiments. It could have easily been fixed in a sequel. Nope, 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 no, 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 no!
The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
MMORPGs have always been frustrating for me. Even though the games nowadays are free up until level 20, which as an aside is a brilliant strategy, the content they offer at the start always feels slightly neutered. You see, I always like playing as a healer class in most RPGs, so whenever I play an MMO, that's the thing I usually go for. And since most MMOs don't let you join parties unless you subscribe to their monthly premium service, I felt excluded and penalized for my preferred style of play. It's like pulling the AAA developer card where they hold the fun hostage unless you pay money. Healer/support characters like myself, while always loved and appreciated by other players, have a very difficult time with MMOs because half the fun requires playing with other people. Also, many MMOs feature the game design pitfall of having billions of kill a certain amount of creatures in a particular area quests. Also, while a large world can be filled with wonderful design and atmosphere, it's also a double-edged sword in that it can make you bored easily with how much time it takes to walk from one point to the other. That being said, I still love playing them. MMORPGs get exponentially more fun the more friends you have playing with you. In my opinion, more so than any other genre because each character can be so radically different and bring something unique to the experience. Also, the nature of MMORPGs usually foster an environment for good stories and world building for those who appreciate it, while at the same time making it easier for task-oriented people like myself to get through them quickly.
The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
The Phoenix Wright series has achieved cult status as a game series with clever writing and great humor. I mean, it references 50 Shades of Grey and still manages to be classy about it. My first Phoenix Wright game was Dual Destinies for the 3DS, and it's my favorite of the bunch. I recently tried out the older versions of the games, and holy cow did the games improve from then. Early Phoenix Wright games, while still containing the series' trademark humor and quirkiness, also contain some glaring issues. I think even the most die-hard fans will agree that the investigation sections of the games are the weakest. Many times the game is unclear on where you have to go or what you have to do, and more often than not, you end up wandering aimlessly until you happen to stumble upon the thing you need to do, or present a random piece of evidence to someone that the game gave you little indication that you had to do. Also, the investigations definitely lack more of the series' memorable twists and tensions of the courtroom segments. Now, this wouldn't be too much of a problem if the investigation segments didn't take up more than half the game. This was especially bad in Phoenix Wright Justice for All. Several times I had to look up guides because Justice for All was so unbelievably vague or didn't tell me anything about what I had to do next. Justice for All tried way too hard to add new spins on the typical gameplay. While they were cool and interesting additions, they just added to the vagueness and confusion. It's easy to see that as the series continued, both the localization and the intuitiveness of the Phoenix Wright games improved. Some will argue that the stories themselves are better in the older games, and yes, they are probably right, but these are games at the end of the day, and I feel that the newest installments in the franchise understand that better. Besides, the newest one has a rapping pirate.
What is with the Japanese and not understanding black culture?
The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
My favorite Dragon Ball Z game has always been Budokai 3. I really felt the utilization of a traditional right and left fighting game viewpoint makes this a much less stupidly complex and more focused experience than the Tenkaichi games. I really felt that unless they went back to that original viewpoint, we would never have a game that surpassed Budokai 3. The Xenoverse definitely came close. The 3D movement felt 3 times more fluid than the Tenkaichi games, and the combat really does capture the fast-paced action of DBZ. The story was a much-needed spin on the tired formula of most DBZ games. In every single one, you play the same story over and over and over. Xenoverse introduces a much-needed and extremely welcome twist. Someone is screwing with the same tired story you've seen and heard over and over, causing significant and sometimes hilarious changes. Adding on, you also had the ability to do co-op missions. Man, this sounds like the perfect DBZ game. What's the problem? There are several. Many, and I put emphasis on many, times you have to fight people who have this thing called super armor. This is a stage where you do reduce damage to them and they don't flinch from your melee attacks. Trust me, it's more annoying than it sounds. I could understand this being used in 3-on-1 battles or against a secret boss like Broly. That's fair, but having a 1-on-1 fight or facing 2 guys with super armor by yourself is downright unfair. Being a melee-focused character is practically worthless against these guys, since they can counter you mid-combo. Many fights devolve into a boring mess of ult spamming like Tenkaichi did. There's also dozens of difficulty spikes and canyons. Some fights require an allied character to stay alive, and those characters usually have no sense of self-preservation. Hey Gohan, move away from the giant death ball that is being charged! Also, Super Saiyans are broken. When you turn Super Saiyan, you essentially have an unlimited pool of ki to use attacks with, giving you a really unfair edge against other characters.
Spam tea every day.
Though, maybe I shouldn't be complaining, seeing as they finally give you the option to make your own DBZ character and customize him or her. Though I gotta ask, why is Frieza Race called the Frieza Race? I really don't think the guy needs more of an ego boost.
Let God strike me down where I stand. Ha! Nice try, Jack. Next time, give it your A game.
The unenlightened masses, they cannot make the judgment call.
Oh boy, here we go. Kingdom Hearts game. That should be good.
Dream drop distance. Now, you've probably already heard me sing about my problems with a certain boss in this game, but let's drop a distance deeper. In this game, you play as Sora and Riku at the same time. There's a gauge at the bottom that shows you how much time you have left before they switch. I understand what they were trying to do, tell the story from 2 perspectives at the same time without making you feel like you're playing through the whole game twice. An admirable attempt, but it doesn't work. The switching is beyond annoying as it can happen during a boss fight which will make you start over. Sure, you can buy items that stall it, but you shouldn't have to. Also, both characters have a different story, and you could be pulled out of one and inserted in another at random points, so the pacing of each is completely out of whack. Give Chain of Memory some credit, it made you play through the game twice, but at least the pacing was even. Despite having the classic Kingdom Hearts cheese, most of the little mini-stories in the Disney worlds work, but the overarching story is beyond convoluted and stupid. I am sick of this franchise lying to me about previously established crucial plot developments. Also, playing Tamagotchi to unlock abilities was a stupid idea! What do I like about this game? The combat. The flow motion system was a ton of fun to just mess with. You utilized your environment a lot more than other games, which really opened up a lot of options for spicing up the traditional hack-and-slash combat. The music is just as wonderful as ever. The story, while dumb, developed Riku in an interesting direction, as well as his relationship with Sora, and several of the worlds were just downright creative and beautiful. I guess I'd have to say I hate this game more than I love it, but it definitely filled me with some very strong feelings of both, hence why it's at number 2. Number 1, on the other hand... I've been a fan of the Prince of Persia series for a long time. It's definitely a hallmark of fun and challenging platforming design, incorporating good storytelling and satisfying combat. The thing is, with the end of Two Thrones, the prince's character arc is complete. There's nothing left to move forward with, so it makes sense that Ubisoft would want to reboot the series to this enchanting mess of a game. The story is simple and works. The prince accidentally unleashes a bad thing and has to travel to many different areas to fix the bad thing. You know, staple of the franchise. It serves the narrative of having the prince mature into a man. But this is such a strange execution of that. The main character is not a prince. He's just a typical rebellious, snarky adventurer slash thief slash treasure hunter. Oh, he's funny, sure, but half of what made the previous games great is the interactions between the prince and his love interest, and how their conflicting backgrounds affected their personality. The prince here is okay, but Elika? Her characterization is all over the place. She'll be duty-bound one minute, a crying puppy the next, a stoic jerk the next, and a shameless flirt another, and continuously cycle through all four with no believable transition between them. She has so many personalities, Harley Quinn would say,
"Girl, you need to see a doctor."
The gameplay also has its niggling annoyances. The combat itself is flashy, but pointless. Once you find the one combo that works, you spam it because there are no reasons and no opportunities to mix it up. There isn't too much of a difficulty curve either, seeing as you can start at any level you want in any order you want, which leads to the game's biggest problem. The backtracking is murder! You see, you progress through the game by defeating one of the 4 major guardians several times. This game gets the bright idea to mix it up by scattering the bosses across the world and having you hop back and forth between them. It's so boring to have to run back and forth doing the same platforming obstacles a billion times. Is there any good? Oh, absolutely! The platforming itself is really creative and fun. They really did go all out with the many different types of ways you could traverse terrain and parkour your way from one point to the other. And holy crap, this game is beautiful! The only reason I bothered to complete this game was to see how pretty each level got once you cured the area. This really is the game I both love and hate the most. I love its platforming, but I hate its combat. I love its visuals, but I hate its characters. I love its simplicity, I hate its nonsensicalness. It fills me with such unbelievable pleasure and unbearable frustration. More than worthy of being number 1.
I'm the Fiery Joker, and... Elika? Elika, what are you doing? Elika, no, Elika, no! Elika, no!